Video highlights from Dirt Track Speedway, presented by Fast Chefs by Actual Exchange. They're not just fast, they're first. FastChefs.com. Here's Bucky Doren, another edition of Dirt Track Speedway, a show about Iowa's dirt track lifestyle. Not necessarily a show about results or video highlights, but it is a show about weekly racing and some of the things that make it tick or make it move. So moving on now to our Victory Lane conversation for tonight. The new weekly show. I saw earlier this morning on Facebook, there was one particular fan of mine, or not fan, friends of mine on Facebook, was talking about low car counts. Now, I've seen it by border to border that car counts are down at most tracks. Some tracks are in bad shape. Some are on critical condition. And they were asking the question posed by this one individual, and since it wasn't shared publicly, I won't mention his name. That's the only reason why I'm not mentioning it. Anyway. There was a lot of talk about what exactly is the issue. The goal was to have the drivers and car owners talk about it, but of course everyone has an opinion, track officials, race fans, and there was all kinds of people chiming in about it because not only do they have an opinion, a lot of people wanted to share it. So some of the ones that I saw was a few drivers said that it's cost and the payouts. The payouts don't equal drivers' risk reward anymore. All right, valid point. A few mentioned that some drivers are in what they felt were entry-level classes and they need to move up because they're dominating. Okay, I understand the theory on that. Another was no new drivers are getting into the sport. They don't wrench on cars because, well, it's hard to be a tuner anymore or a wrencher anymore because all the cars that are coming out of Detroit or wherever they're coming from nowadays, you have to take them to the shop. You have to allow somebody else because there's computers in there, there's sensors in there, and there's all sorts of things that think for you, airbags and all this other stuff that is all computerized. You can't just get out some wrenches and wrench on your car anymore because you need computer technology to do it. So young guys and gals aren't getting excited about it. It's killing the sport. And there was a list that goes on and on and on, but no one person I noticed said, well, it's my fault. I'll be the first to say, hey, it's my fault. Well, at least I'm a part of the problem. Let me explain. How many specials were there last week and the week before? I remember growing up maybe 10, 15 years ago, you could fit all the races on one index card that were specials through the course of a year. Nowadays, you can barely fit it in some weeks all on one index card. And promoters have listened to the drivers talking about, hey, we need better pay. So someone like me came along and invented something that people have been talking about for years, the Hawkeye Dirt Tour, 1,000 to win special. And when we created it, there weren't a whole lot of those specials out there. You could count the number of 1,000 to win shows on two hands. Well, nowadays, that's about how many it takes for 1 week. So the promoters saw it work, so they started to do that. They heard what the driver said, saw that it worked, and then all of a sudden they decided to add more. Well, now they've taken it to the nth degree because 1,000 isn't exciting anymore. It's become kind of the new weekly amount in people's eyes. So now they have to pay $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. Start money is all changing as well. And as we as fans get excited about it, so we go and support it. As we as drivers and race teams get excited about it and see the cost risk reward aspect of it, so we go and support it. And all of a sudden the promoters see it working, so then they're outdoing themselves and trying to schedule on top of themselves. And everyone keeps going to those all along the while. The weekly show has become basically a bunch of drivers getting together and racing in the backyard. Now, I'm not saying get rid of specials, but I'm saying we need to find some way to moderate it so that a special that happens every week suddenly becomes what everyone expects on a weekly show. Pretty soon, weekly is going to die out. So I don't really have the one fix-all answer that says, hey, racing needs this in order to fix and keep weekly racing going. Because without weekly racing, you're not going to have the specials or the super specials or the mega specials. Without that, it's going to fall by the wayside. The one thing I do know that is along the way of those 12 steps, first you have to admit that you have a problem or a part of the problem. So I would really love, I'll be honest with you, this isn't really kind of anything that just popped into my head. I don't think there's any way you could moderate it, but I would love to have all the promoters get together and find some way to work together on scheduling stuff. For example, we've got 3 specials paying fairly good money this coming Tuesday night. And I would love to be able to find a way that all the promoters work together and not schedule on top of one another. But we as fans are going to go and support them. So it's just, like I said, it's just a big vicious circle. No matter what we do, somebody's going to be upset about it. But we need to find the common ground that minimizes the damage done. East, west, north, south, somehow to work it all together. Kumbaya, let's sing by the campfire and hold hands. If tracks work with three each other as opposed to scheduling on top of each other, the weekly shows wouldn't suffer as much. You know, I've saw actually, that's a great point, PJ. I love that. I actually have seen in the past promoters work together to not schedule on, hey, I'm going to run this special. I noticed you're not running late models this week because you got something going on at a different track that's further away, and we don't share a lot of cars, so I'm going to run a late model special that night. Are you cool with it? I've seen that happen. I've also seen where tracks are going to take a night off because they're cross-promoting with others. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it doesn't happen enough. And I want to make sure that we find a way to keep things rolling there. Video highlights from Dirt Track Speedway, presented by Fast Chefs by Axle Exchange. They're not just fast, they're first. FastChefs.com.